The wedding hall in Austin, Texas shimmered with crystal lights and soft music, the kind meant to make everyone feel special. Rows of guests sat chatting happily, dressed in expensive suits and elegant gowns. To most people, it was a perfect celebration. But for Lily, standing nervously near the back of the hall, it felt like the loneliest place on earth. Lily was 16 and obese, a fact she was painfully aware of every single day. She had spent hours choosing her dress, settling on a simple blue one that made her feel just a little bit confident. Still, as soon as she entered the hall with her aunt, she sensed the looks. First came the quick glances, then the whispers. A soft laugh here, a hand covering a grin there. Lily tried to ignore it, telling herself she was imagining things. She wasn't. As guests waited for the ceremony to begin, the murmurs grew louder. "Why would she wear that?" someone whispered. "This is a wedding, not a joke," another voice chuckled. Lily's cheeks burned. She stared at the floor, wishing she could disappear. Her aunt was busy talking to relatives and didn't notice what was happening. Lily stood alone, clutching her small purse like it was a shield. She reminded herself why she had come. The bride was a distant cousin who had once been kind to her, and Lily didn't want to miss the wedding. She wanted, just once, to feel like she belonged in a room full of people. But standing there, feeling everyone's eyes on her, that hope began to crumble. Across the hall, near the middle rows, sat Mark, a quiet man in his mid-30s. He was a single father who rarely attended social events, but today he was there because a close friend was getting married. Beside him sat his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, swinging her feet and smiling at everything around her. Mark's attention had mostly been on her, making sure she was comfortable, fixing the ribbon in her hair, until he noticed Lily. He saw her shoulders tense each time someone laughed. He noticed the way she pretended to scroll through her phone, just to avoid eye contact. Most of all, he recognized that familiar expression on her face, the look of someone being silently hurt. Mark knew it well. Growing up poor and awkward, he had worn it himself many times. Mark's jaw tightened as he listened to the whispers around him. He glanced at Emma, who was watching the room with innocent curiosity. A thought struck him hard. If my daughter were treated like that one day, what would I want someone to do? Near Lily, a small group of guests laughed openly now, no longer even trying to hide their mockery. One of them nudged another and pointed. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she forced herself not to cry. She straightened her back, trying to look strong, even though her heart felt heavy. That was the moment Mark stood up. He gently took Emma's hand, feeling her small fingers curl into his. He didn't raise his voice or draw attention yet. He simply started walking forward, his eyes fixed on Lily. The music played on, unaware that everything was the soft wedding music faded into the background as Mark walked down the aisle, his footsteps calm but purposeful. A few guests turned to look at him, confused. Why was someone moving around right before the ceremony? Emma held his hand tightly, sensing that her father was serious about something important. Mark stopped beside Lily. She looked up, startled, quickly wiping her eyes and forcing a polite smile, assuming he was about to ask her to move or point out that she didn't belong there. That's what people usually did. Instead, Mark offered her a gentle nod, one filled with respect, not pity. Then he turned to face the room. "I wasn't planning to speak today," Mark began, his voice steady and clear. Conversations stopped. Even the whispers died instantly. "But I'm a father, and I don't get to stay silent when I see something like this." People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some already knew what he was talking about. Mark glanced down at Emma and smiled softly. "My daughter learns how to treat people by watching me, and by watching all of you." He looked back at the guests. "What she's been seeing today isn't kindness." A heavy silence filled the hall. "She's seen adults laugh at someone for how they look," he continued, gesturing gently toward Lily without pointing. "She's seen judgment instead of empathy. And I promise you, no wedding, no celebration, is worth teaching a child that cruelty is acceptable." Lily's breath caught in her throat. No one had ever defended her like this before. She felt frozen, unsure whether to cry or smile. Mark went on, his words calm but powerful. "Strength isn't about being loud or popular or fitting into some perfect image. Strength is standing in a room where people mock you, and still holding your head up." He turned slightly toward Lily. "That takes courage most people here don't even understand. Guests began looking down. A woman who had laughed earlier pressed her lips together in shame. A man near the front cleared his throat and stared at his shoes. The room that moments ago had been full of judgment now felt uncomfortably honest. "This young lady," Mark said, "deserves the same respect as anyone else here. And if we can't offer that, then we should seriously question what kind of people we're choosing to be." Mark squeezed Emma's hand. "Come on, sweetheart," he said softly. Then he looked at Lily again. "If you'd like, you're welcome to sit with us." For a second, Lily couldn't move. Then she nodded, barely trusting her voice. "Thank you," she whispered. As Lily walked beside Mark and Emma, something changed inside her. Every step felt lighter. The eyes on her no longer burned with ridicule, they followed her with regret, admiration, and, for some, newfound respect. She sat down, her hands trembling, but her heart felt warm. Emma smiled at her. "I like your dress," the little girl said cheerfully. Lily smiled back, a real one this time. When the ceremony finally began, the hall was quieter than before, but not in a bad way. It was the kind of silence that comes after a lesson has been learned. And for Lily, that wedding became more than a painful memory. It became the day she discovered that one brave voice can silence a crowd, and that kindness, when shown at the right moment, can change everything. To change. After the ceremony ended, guests slowly stood up, the earlier tension still hanging lightly in the air. The bride and groom walked down the aisle smiling, unaware that something far more important than vows had already taken place among their guests. Lily remained seated for a moment, afraid that once everything returned to normal, the cruelty might come back too. But it didn't. A middle-aged woman approached first. She hesitated, then smiled awkwardly. "I just wanted to say, your dress really is lovely," she said, her voice quieter than before. Lily nodded, unsure how to respond, but the words felt genuine. One by one, other guests followed, some with compliments, others with simple apologies. Not everyone spoke, but no one laughed anymore. Mark watched this from his seat, relief washing over him. He hadn't planned to make a statement that day. He had only acted on instinct, the same instinct that told him what kind of man he wanted his daughter to grow up seeing. Emma leaned against his arm, whispering, "Daddy, you did the right thing," and those words meant more to him than any applause ever could. During the reception, Lily found herself invited to join a table near the front. It felt strange, almost unreal. She listened as people talked to her like an actual person, asking about school, her interests, her plans for the future. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she had to hide. Later, as music filled the hall and couples danced, Lily stepped outside for some fresh air. The evening sky was warm, painted with soft pink and gold. Mark joined her a moment later, carrying 2 glasses of lemonade. "I hope I didn't embarrass you," he said gently, handing her one. Lily shook her head. "No, you helped me." Her voice trembled slightly. "I've been treated like that my whole life. People think it doesn't hurt if they laugh quietly." Mark nodded. "I know. But remember this, you didn't earn that respect today because of me. You already deserved it." Those words stayed with her. Weeks later, Lily returned to school carrying herself differently. She still looked the same, still faced challenges, but something inside her had shifted. When whispers started, she didn't shrink. When someone laughed, she didn't look down. She remembered a wedding hall full of adults silenced by the truth, and one man who showed her that dignity couldn't be taken away. At home, Mark noticed changes in Emma too. She became more outspoken about fairness, quick to defend classmates who were teased. When Mark once asked where she learned that, she smiled and said, "From you." And from that girl at the wedding. Months passed, but the impact of that day never faded. For Lily, it wasn't just about being defended, it was about being seen. That single moment of kindness became proof that the world wasn't only cruel, and that good people still existed. And for everyone who witnessed it, that wedding was remembered not for the decorations or the music, but for the day laughter turned into silence, silence turned into reflection, and one small act of courage changed more lives than anyone expected.